Welcome to Real Estate for Real Life podcast. I'm Ryan Wilson.
And I'm Courtney Gauchman.
The topic for today's episode is creating a business plan that aligns with growth.
You know, business planning is my favorite topic.
Oh yeah, you love it.
It's my favorite time of year too. So let's get into it, right? I think before we start talking about how you actually create your business plan, we need to talk about why.
Yep. So first thing we always tell our company is like, keep it simple. Keep it simple. It doesn't need to be perfect. Okay. For our company, we do a company business plan, and then each individual person in the company does their own individual business plan. That's salespeople and also ops and marketing.
Exactly. Because ultimately what everyone needs within your company is a roadmap of what they're going to do in order to achieve their goals, especially when you're planning for growth. So our company's been in growth mode for every single year, basically, since it's been open, right?
Yeah,
so 12 years. Year over year, we're always trying to achieve more and grow and develop our skills and continue to sell more houses and meet more people, right? So for us, and again, depending on what business you're in, if you're planning to sustain your success or if you're planning to grow, you want to be creating a roadmap that is going to tell you daily, right? Or especially when times get busy, exactly what to do and how to do it.
Right. And you need visibility there too, because you need to be able to look at this thing. So for our company, we print it out. We have it on the drive. We have it on people's phones. It's all over the place. So you can't get away from it. And frankly, like if it seems complicated, and it's overwhelming, then simplify it. Keep it simple.
Exactly. It's not about perfection. It's about clarity. So for us, let's kind of dive into the way that we do our business plan, how we start, how we continue to refine it, and just how we get it to a place where it's ready to be essentially printed, right?
Right.
I know most of the time you don't need a hard copy of things in today's world, but for us, there is something really nice to having it digitally on your phone and in your email and on your computer, but then also having that hard copy, which is why we do want it to be, kind of fine-tuned and pretty much to perfection by the time we actually print it out, right? Because we're going to have that manual.
Yeah, and they do appreciate it sitting on their desk when they get there after the goal planning sessions, and it's good to revert back to, for sure.
Exactly. So the first step, right? So if you're the one who's creating this business plan, whether you're a solo entrepreneur or whether you're someone who owns a business and has multiple employees, sales agents, whoever it might be, you need to have a mission. And some people overlook the mission. They think you just need to have a vision, but they really both are super, super important. The mission is how you're going to actually operate. It's not about the big goal and what you're going to achieve. It's how, and it's who you are. For us, as an example, right, we hold ourselves to a level of high communication, or high level communication, I should say. We are always looking for making sure that we are giving white glove customer service. That's
Always.
One of our top priorities. And then deepening relationships, right? This is just who we are. It is our company mission. And it allows us to make all of our goals surrounding that stuff. Are we tapping into those? These are also things that from a marketing standpoint, because obviously I do the operations and marketing for our company, from a marketing standpoint, it's essentially our brand voice too, right? So the mission and marketing kind of align in our world. And I'm sure there are many businesses out there that could also see that those things are very relative. Your brand voice outwardly is usually what your mission actually is for your company too.
Totally. And as we get into vision, it's really where you're going. We encourage all of our people, like, don't just think this year, think in the future, think 3 years ahead, think 5 years ahead. What does that look like? And, kind of business owner to business owner, if you think you're conveying your vision to your team or your company or your whatever the case may be, and you think you're doing it enough, do it more. Because one thing I know, because I think about it nonstop, but if I'm not conveying it to the team, on a regular basis, then, there's, not clarity. And as we all know, clarity is power. And the more clear you are with your team and the people you lead, the more in line they're going to be with your vision and your mission, frankly.
Yeah. So ultimately, when you're building your business plan, if you're the business owner or you're a solo entrepreneur, you're going to start by writing out the mission, or typing out the mission.
Yeah.
Right?
Scribble it.
Yeah, in your pencil, a number 2 pencil. So no, you're going to write out your mission. You're going to write out your vision. That really doesn't change very often year to year. For us, we've had the same mission and vision for several years now because it really truly is who we are and who this company is. So for when we hand out our business plans, our templates for the rest of the team, for our agents and our operations team, what we're ultimately doing is we're handing them that piece pre-written, right? Because now what we're going to dive into is we're going to dive into the next part of business planning,
Right.
which is looking in the rearview mirror.
Right.
And this is what we typically say before we get together, because our business planning sessions are a retreat. We all leave the office. We go to an offsite retreat, usually somewhere really wonderful. Like last year, it was Newport, Rhode Island. It's always somewhere in New England. Before we go there, we want to actually take a week or two to self-reflect and think back on what some of your amazing achievements were. I think a lot of times, depending on your personality traits, you can either hyperfixate on the negative, hyperfixate on the positive, forget about the things that didn't work, right? Or you're somebody who just actually moves a million miles an hour and doesn't even realize how much you actually achieved in those 365 days, right? So taking that 1 to 2 week period of time to do this reflection, and you can make it as deep and reflective as you want, or you could just make it 3 simple bullet points. But ultimately, you need to really focus on the most important things, the 3 things, which is, what did I actually do to move the needle, right, in my business? Where did I waste some time, or where did I not have an ROI, right? Because I think sometimes we want to give credit to things that we put a ton of time and energy into, but ultimately it really didn't have a return.
Right.
And then I think the third one is, what do you want to bring with you in the new year, right? What do you want to do again? Or what do you want to get better at? What do you want to really spend some time to focus on? So you reflect on those things and you start to really create from there what your plan going forward is going to be.
Yeah. I mean, numbers are always going to be the final product of a business plan. Obviously, it's very important from a business standpoint to make sure you're hitting your numbers. But look at everything else. Like, where did you waste time? If you can just get incrementally better, The Compound Effect, one of the best books ever. If you can literally just make small steps forward, do them, habitually, continuously and consistently, then you will get better. And that's what we look at. We say, hey, where did we waste time? What did we do really, really well? All right, let's make sure we double down on that. Make sure that goes in the business plan. But let's also look at the data. Let's look, because you might have thought, like you mentioned, you spend time doing things, but did it actually get you the result you were hoping for? And oftentimes the answer is no. You might have spent a lot of time doing something, but didn't actually get the result you want. So you just really need to look at that, and kind of go through it, fine tooth comb type of style. And then the other thing I would really focus on is, from a business standpoint, the source. Where is the source of the business? So it, again, doesn't matter if you're a brick and mortar, e-commerce, real estate like we are, look at what the source of the business is. Okay, that's one of the most important things for any business. You look at that source, and you need to double down on those sources that actually fed you or fed your business, because that doesn't lie. You can pretty much directly correlate where certain business comes from, and then just make sure you're really taking advantage of that and doubling down on that.
Yeah, I love that you said that. Bringing up The Compound Effect, that is the way to my heart. My favorite book ever, because I just love the idea that you can do little daily small things that accumulate over time and truly compound and bring you to a lot of success. So that is actually a huge part of our company mission, I could say, right? Yep. But so to your point, exactly, right? So the reflection is a 2-step. It's a 2-prong approach, right? So first you're reflecting on kind of like where you did all your work, where you spent all your time, where you spent all your energy, what worked, what didn't work. And it's a little bit more of that spiritual reflection, right? And then you have the numbers. And the numbers are the stuff that I think both of us really like too.
Yeah, they don't lie.
Exactly. The numbers don't lie, just like Shakira's hips. And it's something that we absolutely look at. What did really work? The origin, where is the business? So if you're e-commerce, you're looking at what ads worked, what, was it influencers? Was it advertisements on Facebook, Instagram, what time of day, right? Those kinds of things. If you're brick and mortar, you're looking at what brought in your clients, right? Like, where did they hear about you? Those kinds of things. For us, we know where our business mainly comes from. We're mainly referral based, repeat clients, and sphere of influence. It's through relationships. However, that doesn't mean that you exclude the buckets that don't work. So when you're looking at that data and you're planning your next year, like you said, I think you used the term doubling down. Mm-hmm. You're going to double down on the sources that absolutely did work, right? Because you're not trying to reinvent the wheel with any of your business plans, unless you're really trying to go rogue and do something crazy, right? But for the most part, we want to continue to do the foundational steps that built your business and that created the success from the jump, right? And if you're getting bored with that, there are other ways to find excitement, but do not stray from the things that worked, right? Yep. From there, we always do look at the glaring area of opportunity, because you can't ignore that either. That could be a category that really does allow growth, right? So the doubling down and tripling down on the metrics that already had a return is where you're going to see small growth. If you want bigger growth, you have to look at the area that didn't work as well and say, is there opportunity, and is this an opportunity for my company mission and my company vision to get better at in order to tap into it, right? So I'll give an example for our company. Our company does a phenomenal job, like I said, getting repeat business, referrals, past clients that, come back to us, repeat business, and sphere of influence, right? So we know we've got that on lock. We know that relationships are easy for us because that's why we got into this business. We love helping people. We love educating people. We love getting them to their next milestone in life, helping them build wealth through real estate. But the area that we're not as great at is converting at open houses. We do about 200 open houses a year. And for us, we're trying to sell the house, right? That's our number one priority. However, there are plenty of buyers walking through open houses that might not want that house specifically, and they're looking for something else. That's an area of opportunity for our team to tap into that a little bit more. Are there a couple of easy, simple things that we could do to get better at that? Get better at servicing those buyers that also want to have a real estate transaction with a successful advisor behind them, right? So that's something where, as we build our business plan, I never forget that bucket. I always just think, okay, this would be that kind of icing on the cake that could get us that extra couple points of growth, right? Mm-hmm. So that extra couple percentage points.
And think about it too, like, think of what you're super proud of that you accomplished last year that might not show up in the numbers. And that's okay too. It doesn't necessarily always need to be about the numbers, even though, the first thing we're going to put down, as we always do, is going to be the financial goals. So we got to put the financial goals. Let's be honest. We're in business to, make money and make sure that we're providing for our clients and hitting our financial goals. So you got to put your financial goals. I will say, make them realistic, right? So make them realistic. Don't set some absurd goal that is, increasing by 300% year over year, just the way we would recommend, but make them realistic. So for instance, if you're in our business and you're selling houses, you're going to start on one end and kind of work it back to on the micro level. So if you say, hey, I want to sell 20 houses this year and I want to close on 20 houses, great. That's an awesome goal. All right. What do you need to do to get there? All right. Maybe that means you need to have 22 clients under contract in order to close on 20, because we know 2 might fall apart. All right. In order to get 22 under contract, how many people do you have to have signed? How many people do you have to have met with that said, I want to work with you and sign on the dotted line? Okay, maybe that's 30, because maybe we say 8 aren't going to transact. All right, so now we're at 30 meetings. We need 30 contracts signed. Out of those 30 contracts signed, how many people do you actually have to meet with? And this is, you're going to, as you're in the business for a long time, I don't care what business you're going to have your different closing ratios. So let's say in order to get 30 people signed, you need to meet with 40 people, because we know 75% of them are going to sign and 25% are going to, decide to do whatever they decide to do. Okay, out of those 40 meetings that we have now, how many conversations do we have? How many in-person conversations? How many phone calls? How many texts? How many DMs? Whatever the case may be, whatever your metrics are as far as communication. you need to break it down. And we recommend breaking it down to the most minute micro of the actual numbers. So you eventually can get to a point where you're able to track that on a daily basis. Because yeah, it's great to have this big yearly goal, right? Everyone that sets goals, clearly they do them on a yearly basis and it's great. But if you don't break them down so you can actually execute on them on a day-to-day basis, it's really, really tricky to hit them.
Right. So what I'm hearing you say is when you jump into the financial goal piece, right, you're going to do a number of things, right? You're going to create a volume goal, right? So everyone's going to pick, well, how much do you want to actually sell, right? Total volume. How many units? Some people, they use that as their number one metric for growth because they think that that's, which we agree to, units is definitely most important. It's the most amount of human beings that you're touching, and that's what grows you further and further, like in the long run. Then from there, it's gross revenue and profit, right? So you need to have those 4 categories in your financial goal part of your business plan. So with those 4, you're now going to also say, okay, from there, I want to make X amount. That's the profit piece. If I'm trying to make X amount, how many appointments, how many people signed, how many closings, so you then break it down from there. But I think you have to start with that big number, and then you have to kind of break that down into digestible, attainable goals, right? A roadmap. Because like you said, it's like you can't just say, I'm going to make $500,000 a year and not even know, well, how many houses do you have to sell, right? Like it's like, or how many, pieces of jewelry do you have to sell depending on your business, right? Or how many closings do you have to have? So whatever it is, it's you pick the financial goal that makes sense, right? And then you actually have to sit there and play around with it and figure out what it means to your actual business. How many conversations do you have to have for it to end in a closing? And that's when people start to get a lot more realistic about their goals. When they start to see something looking like, 2 appointments a week, it's a little bit more,
Digestible, yeah.
digestible. Okay, 2 appointments versus when it looked like it was 104, right? So I think that's when you start to actually see your goals come to life. So the financial goal is the first step. After you do the reflection and you understand where things came from, you understand the origin, now you start to plan forward. And the forward thinking is you have to keep the lights on. So like you said in the beginning, it's like we need to make money. We are doing this in order to actually keep the lights on, whether it's for your home, right? For your family life, your personal life, or keep the lights on if you're running a business, right? So that's where you begin. You begin with the financial stuff.
And if you're brand new to any business, just look at statistical averages. So you might say, okay, the average for a closing of someone that is experienced in the business, they might closing ratio might be 80%. All right, brand new to the business, maybe it's 50%. So just take a look at those averages and just make sure when you're setting these, you tie those goals to like actually real activities. What are you going to do on a day-to-day basis? Try to keep them as, not vague as possible, very, very specific. We always use the terminology, quote unquote, SMART. What does that stand for? Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. If you can look at each goal and it hits that SMART, category, okay, that's good. That's something that we can actually track and realize, hey, did we hit that or did we not? When they're too vague, especially financial, it's easy to kind of work around those.
Yes, I love that. I think being in the operations side of things, right, when we start to plan our goals and we're trying to make them measurable, it becomes a lot more difficult because they're not so much numeric based as more large project based. Or when it comes down to it, operations can simply be, did we help move the needle with getting more closings due to efficiencies and things like that, right? So ultimately, if it just says, you're going to do X, Y, and Z, but it doesn't say how many, at what date, at what time frame, right? Like it's like you said, it has to be measurable, and that's the number one priority.
Like we always say, like the daily and weekly activities is literally what is going to drive your growth. Of course, putting the big number out there and all that, that's huge, but the daily and weekly activities is really what drive things.
Right. So let's get into that, right? Because big goals don't fail.
Right.
It's
Sure.
the inconsistent habits that do.
Oh, I
Right?
love that. Yep.
Yeah. Well, that's the compound effect again, right? So when we start getting into those things, right? So basically it's the three goals, right? And the way that we have this is it's three separate pieces of paper, right? In this business plan or three separate pages on our PDF. And you have goal one, it's the overarching goal. When you're in sales or most businesses, that's going to be what's your sales number, right? What's your sales volume going to be and units, and how many appointments does that mean, and how many how many people signed and how many appointments. So you put that one there, and then it's like, well, you don't just get appointments just because you said you're going to get appointments, right? So now you're actually going to break down in multiple different ways. How are you getting those, right? That's where the details come into play. And again, this is why we take a full day to plan this, but we also do some prep work in advance as well too, because it's not super easy to put all of this stuff in writing. It takes a lot of depth into how you want to get business, right? And I think that the best part about our business specifically is you really can tap into the way that you enjoy getting business, right? For us, that's why our entire team has been built on relationships, because that is something all of us enjoy. So that's kind of goal one, right? It's usually your volume, how many sales you want. Your second and third goals, those will be something different based on your business. Those will be, maybe it's a bigger overarching project that you want to do. Maybe it's education based, where you want to get more knowledge in a different category of your business, a different arm of the business. Or maybe one of them is actually something that's going to build a foundation for an additional layer of revenue for you, or additional stream of revenue for your business, right? So those other two goals have to be something that go with goal number one, right? The overarching. They have to align with the mission. And then from there, you need to make sure that it's something where you can also write out what those daily activities are going to be.
And the way we do it is, obviously you got your three big goals, and then we break them down quarterly, monthly, weekly, daily. And, the quarterly, that's bigger stuff. Okay, that might be a big event. That might be something that takes, hours, days to actually accomplish. And in our team, we meet every Tuesday, and everyone reads their quarterly goals every single week. Keep them top of mind. And then you look at it and you say, okay, so now we got the quarterly goals. What do I need to do this month in order to get me closer to that quarterly goal? Same thing with weekly. There's certain things, weekly it might be digging for properties. Okay, I'm going to do that every Tuesday, Thursday. Daily, it might be, okay, DMs, text messages, phone calls, visiting properties, coffee meetings, you name it, whatever it may be, you need to break that down daily. Because if you're hitting those small daily activities, it's going to, have that effect and continue to grow. And ultimately, next thing you know, you look in the rearview mirror and wow, I hit my quarterly goal. So, and obviously we know that you do that every quarter. Next thing you know, you're going to be hitting your yearly goal. But if you get off track, that's okay. Every single person, I don't care how efficient you are, you're going to get off track when you're executing your business throughout the year. It's just a matter of how quickly you get back on track. And that's what this roadmap is super, super helpful for. Because again, it doesn't need to be perfect. You just need to have something that's concrete in writing that you can actually revert back to. So when times do get busy and you're in the spring market and things are crazy and, you can't keep up with your emails or phone calls or whatever the case may be, but you then say, all right, I need to revert back. I'm working, in the business. I need to now work on the business. All right, what do I need to do? Revert back to that. So really breaking it up quarterly, monthly, weekly, daily is essential.
Exactly. Because like you said, life happens. You need to be able to say, how do I get back on track? Right. But one thing that you just mentioned was events. And I'm glad you brought that up because that leads us into the sixth part of how you build a business plan, right? So that is marketing. You need to actually plan out your marketing. So for some people, this is fun. They enjoy it. They're looking forward to planning their marketing. For other people, this is very daunting. If you're more of a sales-oriented person and marketing just isn't your forte, there is a reason why there's usually a marketing department, right? And they're usually two separate departments, sales and marketing. You don't need to get down to the nitty gritty. You don't need to plan your entire social media calendar. What you need to have is a couple of pillars of what you're going to do. For us, my suggestion is you have a couple of campaigns that you're going to do that are not reinventing the wheel. You're just sticking to them. They're the tried and true. Our campaigns that we have are specific to our listings, right? We have an awesome What's Near campaign. That's for every listing. It's how we pull in local businesses and how we feature some really cool spaces near the homes that we're selling. Then you get into, whether it's going to be email blast campaigns. Okay, are there any that you're going to do regularly? Market updates or something having to do with your team member spotlights, or again, pulling back in local businesses or vendors that you work with. And then you want to get into the events piece, which is what you had kind of touched on. That's part of those activities that you have to do. And so is marketing, right? Marketing is part of the activities because as much as you are going to do outreach as someone who's in sales or someone who owns a company, it's also you need people to see you and see your branding and think of you when you can't always be reaching out to them. So events is a huge way to do that, whether it's small micro events where it's intimate dinners or just a, invite only type of event, or whether it's like a seminar where we're going to teach and educate people, or whether it's like a massive client event, like our pictures in the park, right? You need to actually make it intentional and put down your plans for marketing.
Yep. Yeah. And as far as marketing, obviously that's completely your forte and your team. But if you're a solo entrepreneur and you don't have a marketing department, it's just you running your business. Just like the theme has been, all day today, it's like keep it super simple. It's okay. You don't need to execute on these huge marketing campaigns. Keep it simple and you can build on it. It's like when people go to these conferences and they try to take away and they see someone on stage and they're talking about their business and they say, I'm going to go implement everything that they're doing. No, that's going to totally derail you. Maybe pick up one or two things. Same thing like here. Maybe you pick up one thing from today's episode that you go implement. That's okay. Don't feel like you need to totally reinvent the wheel. Same thing for marketing, especially if it's not your forte. Start small and you can continue to build on it.
I love that. So one tip I would give for anyone who is in that solo entrepreneur space or someone who just doesn't have a marketing team, doesn't have that bandwidth, look at the calendar, right? And the calendar is going to help you along. For us being in New England, we have seasonality. So you have 4 seasons that you can tap into that can help you with your marketing plan. You also have, for us, it's like Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day. There are a lot of things. You go into April, we've got the marathon, the Boston Marathon, right? So we have a lot of cool things that are just right there built in for you, right? All of the people that are part of your audience, no matter what business you're in, they experience all of those holidays just like we do, right? So find a way to make it make sense with your business. And that's one of the easiest ways to create a marketing campaign is to start to leverage and use that. Or if you're in a business that's very seasonal and has, nuances throughout those seasons, tap into that. Right? For us, it's spring market. Everybody talks about spring market. Well, our marketing has changed quite a bit when spring market is actually not really a thing anymore and it pops off in January. Yeah. So now it's no more of we don't really do that as much in a marketing campaign. We've shifted. We've shifted to the fact that it's like, there is no spring anymore. It happens in January, right? So you edit as needed, but I think that the most simplified way to create that marketing plan in advance without getting too deep into the nitty gritty and just giving some sort of intention behind it is to pick some of the easy layups that everyone in your audience is going to be paying attention to and experiencing.
Yeah, no, that's true. And the last thing, and I would even argue maybe the most important thing for a business plan, something that, when I started setting goals, when I started in this business 20 years ago, is I would always set personal goals because it is not just about the business, right? Whether those personal goals are, to see your kids more often or make sure you never miss one of their soccer games or, read a book or learn from this person or have this meeting, whatever the case may be, or work out. Everyone, obviously now we're in January, everyone's got a workout goal, right? And 90% will fizzle in the next few weeks. But do something that you can, look at and say, hey, listen, this is a non-negotiable because in order for me to succeed in business, I need to actually hit these personal goals as well. For me, family, kids, all those things. Like if we work so damn hard, we got to really be able to take advantage of these, these fun times. So put them on paper too. It's not just about the business. And realistically, we know that if you're good in your personal life, and again, whether that means fit or you're learning or you're spending time with family or friends or whatever, kind of fills your bucket, so to speak, you're going to be more successful and more efficient in your business too. And I always recommend, like, put that on your calendar, because let's be honest, when we're running a million miles an hour, doing business and working and providing for our families and doing all the things we do and we are so important, the first thing to usually get nixed is the personal stuff, whether it be a workout or reading or whatever you choose to do. So put it on the calendar and hold yourself accountable for that, just like you hold yourself accountable to your clients when you say you're going to do something.
I absolutely love that. The personal growth, like you said, it's one of your favorites, or you think the most important. And I can kind of give you just an anecdotal little story, but prior to me working at Wilson Group and becoming a part of the team, I never really had personal goals. I was always so business oriented. Everything had to do with work and creating goals around that. And then my personal life just kind of intertwined and worked around it. However, you do burn out and you start to feel like you said, your personal goals are always the one that takes the hit, right? I'd stop working out. I'd start getting frustrated. I would feel sluggish because I wasn't doing those things, right? And the last thing you want to do, especially as an entrepreneur, is feel resentment towards the business that you chose, right? Or the company that you've created. And when you've put blood, sweat, and tears into these businesses and you are just growing and working at a million miles an hour, you really do have to have the same type of focus on those personal goals as well too. And I think that that's one of my favorite parts of our goal planning, is that we then break those down into those quarterly rocks. We're not breaking those down into daily activities, right? Like, because let's be honest, we kind of know you got to work out, you got to at least brush your teeth, right? Like, you got to do some of the basic things for your personal life to function. But I do really love that when we break down our quarterly rocks and we bring those into our sales meetings with the team, I'm always still looking every week at the sales meeting at my business goals and also the goals for my family, right? I have goals to go on dates with my kids and make sure that I'm spending individual special time with them. I have goals to renovate parts of my house because I'm trying to do that slowly. Those are the things that do make me show up better at work. And I'm just so glad that that's part of our business plan.
Yeah.
Right. So I would say, don't skip on that piece. That's one of the more important pieces, because it is going to keep you aligned with the rest of your goals.
Yep.
And prevent burnout.
It's so true. So whether it be your business goals, your personal goals, keep them simple. And I've said that a couple of times. Keep them simple and keep them action driven so you can actually execute on that stuff.
Right. Your business plan should be something that supports you and supports your business and supports all of your goals. And it should be that roadmap. I think we've said that 100 times as well, too. So, I think that we kind of put that out there of how you would build it, right? It's a 8-step process, essentially, to build this goal. So we'll put that in the show notes too. So if you want to if you're more of a visual person, you can actually read along to how we built this. And then you can always DM us or send us an email if you want our business planning template. We have a really beautiful one. You'll get a gorgeous photo of our whole team with it. Feel free to edit as necessary. Yeah. But our business planning template is something we've spent a lot of time on, because as you can hear from the excitement and passion we have for business planning, it's a really important piece every year of us resetting and then getting ready to focus on a next year. And that's how I think we've continued to have a lot of growth and success, is through doing this.
It's super important. And, honestly, what goes hand in hand with the business plan is company standards. And coincidentally, on the next episode, we're going to be talking about, company standards and the systems that will set you free.
Exactly. The company standards and the systems that go along with it.
Yep.
So thank you so much for listening to Real Estate for Real Life today. I'm Courtney Gauchman.
And I'm Ryan Wilson. Thank you.
We'll see you next time.